Shalom from Jerusalem. This is TV7's Israel at War update. And as we're set to deliver the latest developments on the various fronts that Israel is currently engaged in, with particular focus right now on Yemen, where Israel just recently launched an attack against various targets in the capital Sana'a, it's always important to remember that 578 days ago, the Islamist Hamas and its terror affiliates in Gaza had launched the atrocities of October 7th. Since then, when it captured over 250 hostages, 59 of them remain in Hamas captivity. Once again, efforts are being made in order to retrieve them, including up to 24 of them still believed to be alive. Up to, again, an emphasis thereon. But before we update you on the latest, let's introduce our panelists for today. From Central Israel, joining us is Brigadier General in Reserve Doron Gavish, who is the commander of the Israeli Air Force Task Force for Air and Missile Defense. Next to him is Brigadier General in Reserve Dr. Amnon Sofrin, formerly the Chief of Intelligence at Mossad and a senior officer at the IDF Intelligence Directorate. And with me here in the studio is our TV7 editor-at-large, Mr. Amir Oren. Amir, for the second consecutive day, Israel is launching retaliatory strikes against Houthi terror targets in Yemen. Today, the airport, alongside a power station and also a military installation, devastating those strategic assets of this Iranian proxy.
Right. So a few nights ago, the Israeli Security Cabinet had a session which, when it ended, released a statement calling only on Gaza to be ready for an Israeli armor and infantry onslaught. What the announcement did not disclose at that time was that another decision by the cabinet was to hit back at the Houthis following the attack on Ben Gurion Airport. So we have seen a two-stage counterattack by the Israeli Air Force. The first one yesterday, Monday, against the seaport of Hodeidah, which is the main port of entry in the Bab el-Mandeb Strait area. And today, the airport, the main airport at the Sana'a vicinity, along with other infrastructure targets which are helping the Houthi regime to install their missile batteries, build underground storage areas, tunnels, and the like. And this may not be the end of the story.
Absolutely. According to the statement released, that not from the IDF, and I'll put that on an emphasis, the Dahban power station was completely destroyed. The 1st Armor Division headquarters was also destroyed. Al-Ayman University, there were various research and development areas there which are related, of course, to research of military hardware was destroyed. Atan, as well as a military maintenance base, and last but not least, the international airport of Sana'a, which was utilized, of course, by the Houthis and controlled by them. Now, General Sofrin, talking about all those targets alongside the various targets that were also targeted yesterday, including a cement installation or a factory that was targeted. What does that actually degrade within the capabilities that the Houthis possess?
I'm not sure that it degrades totally their capabilities, but it caused a lot of damage. First of all, it's the first time we hit what we call military units of the Houthis. Something we didn't do before, because we attacked the 4 infrastructures. We attacked the airport, the naval port of Hodeidah. We attacked other facilities and so on. Now this is the first time we hit a military unit. The first time we hit what we call kind of a research center. That means that we have, the demonstration is that we have a variety of targets, and we can choose each time to attack each one of them. And this is a signal for the Houthis. That means that if you are going to escalate one more time and try to close Ben Gurion Airport, we're going to hit you very badly. And this is only the beginning. This is only first phase.
Thank you, General Sofri and General Kavish. When we're talking about the cause of this attack, naturally, dozens of ballistic missiles and unmanned aerial vehicles were launched from Yemen by the Houthis towards Israeli territory over the course of the last year and a half. If we can put a specific date on that, the 17th of October of 23. And it seems like Israel did retaliate a number of occasions, but now we do see U.S. Central Command, NAVCENT, as well as AirCENT, joining together with, to a lesser degree, the British Air Force, launching daily and nightly attacks against Houthi targets. And it seems like the Houthis to date have not really come to terms with the fact that the most potent military force that this globe has ever known, namely the U.S. military, is confronting it quite robustly, and we're seeing additional B-52 bombers, also 2 additional B-52 bombers entering into the region for the sake of this attack, in addition to other reasons. But Israel is now joining that at a time when we're still seeing additional fronts active. I mean, where is this heading from an Israeli perspective?
Well, you're right, Jonathan. The Houthis are shooting toward us starting for last year, but we have to say that I think we could divide the fight against the Houthis until I would say, the entering in January of the current administration, and from there. From the US side, we have to say that the strategy was completely changed. United States was basically enhancing the defense of Israel, helping with the defense, but everything that was done till January was on the defensive side. Here and there were some attacks, but in general, it was on the defense. The current administration changed the strategy toward the Houthis, and this is a pivotal, I would say, point in the fight against them. We also have to say that although we are all attacking the Houthis in the last 2 days, but we have to remember that we are also fighting a different fight. The United States, together with the UK and some other coalition nations, is basically fighting the Houthis against what they are doing toward the national naval routes and application on it globally. Part of it is fighting against them, which in a way affect their shooting missiles toward Israel. But this is not the priority one of the coalition. We have to say it fairly. Here in Israel, from our side, this is a direct war with the Houthis. From their point of view, they are, of course, tying it to the Gaza Strip. I would have to say, in general, 2 things. The first one is what we, and of course, mainly the United States, are trying to do is not to find the last Houthi terrorist, is to strike them in a way that they would understand that they are being hit so strong that they might need to think twice about their strategy. This is the first thing. And the second thing, of course, is the link between Iran and the Houthis. At the end of the day, the Houthis are proxies of Iran. We remember the statement made by President Trump that he sees those missiles as they are being shot by Iran. So this is also something which is very important to remember, that there is a strong tie there, and the solution is also in this time.
Mr. Owen, when we're talking about the ties between the Iranians and the Houthis, many claim that the Iranians are not necessarily the ones who press a button or pick up the phone and tell them what to do. But that was not the statement given by Bradford Cooper during the 60 Minutes interview he gave roughly a year ago, when he highlighted that when we're talking about the activities that the Iranians are undertaken in Yemen, it is like an RGC officer standing by a Houthi tribesman, giving him the weapon, telling him there's the target, and telling him, okay, now you pull the trigger with the coordinates, and it basically is a mechanism that works for the Iranians as a cause of deniability or distancing themselves, something that is still the case today.
Houthi officials are very sensitive to such charges. They say we are independent, we are sovereign, we are not being directed by anyone, including the Iranians. Of course, neither the United States nor Israel believes it. A few days ago, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth came out with a statement saying, we know that Iran is behind you, Houthis. We have an enormous capability. You, presumably you, not only the Houthis, but also the Iranians, will see the consequences. And by the way, Israel has established a biblical sort of equation, a port for a port, not only Sana'a for Ben Gurion, but earlier, we tend to forget it, but the port of Eilat has been effectively closed for more than a year because the traffic, the maritime traffic, which used to go to Eilat, has stopped doing that. It doesn't mean that it doesn't get to Israel. It goes around the Cape, it gets to Haifa or Ashdod. But Eilat, for all practical purposes, is now no longer an effective port. And Hodeidah for Eilat and Sana'a for Ben Gurion.
The last time I checked, and I must confess it has been a couple of months now, General Sofrin, the port of Eilat received zero cargo, which is unprecedented, of course. And when we're looking at this, to what degree can Israel, or should Israel, really cripple all of the incoming shipping into Houthi-controlled Yemen, since naturally, just for the sake of our viewers, much of Yemen is not under Houthi control?
Of course not. Only the western part of Yemen and the northwestern part of Yemen are under the control of the Houthis. Nevertheless, they control the entrance to Bab el-Mandeb, meaning the Bab el-Mandeb Strait and the entrance to the Red Sea. And therefore, they succeeded in denying any vessel or merchant vessel that is aiming for Eilat port to get to Eilat. The Eilat port is paralyzed for more than, it's almost a year and a half that is paralyzed. The quantity of vessels going into Suez Canal, which is another arm of the Red Sea, is reduced to about 40 to 50%. And Egypt is suffering what we call a huge financial damage due to that. Now, everybody has to fight it, and the international coalition was established only for this purpose, for keeping what we call the freedom of navigation at the Red Sea, and they didn't succeed. And the Americans also don't succeed so far in allowing or enabling vessels to go into the Red Sea, directly to the direction of Eilat port, of course. That means that it has to be what we call a mutual effort, not only by Israel. Israel alone cannot do it because they don't have what we call the enough resources and enough capability to fight so far from Israel. You can go and strike and get back home, but you can't stay there for a long time, which is needed. And therefore, we have to rely only on the international coalition that is operating there, but they don't do very well so far.
Well, of course, the international coalition does not want Israel to utilize all of the tools at its disposal to confront this threat, something that, of course, would cause not only Houthi heartache, but much more than that. So when we're talking about the international coalition, General Gavish, to what degree is the collaboration taking a new step in the direction of confronting the Houthis, and beyond that, what are the currently preparatory efforts to confront the Islamic Republic of Iran, particularly in the event that negotiations do not succeed?
Well, for sure, Jonathan, as we said, once the strategy has changed, so the cooperation is relevant to all the different pillars of the defense, which is the offensive, alert, defense, and so on. So there is a cooperation. There was always a cooperation, but once again, once you change the strategy, so now is being for sure tightening. Also, for this, Israel is whatever is doing in the region is very, I would say, in a very close discussions with the CENTCOM, and there is a very, very tight military and operational discussions those days.
Mr. Oren, let's talk diplomacy for a moment. The Iranians have postponed the last round of negotiations on Saturday on its nuclear file in light of various statements that were made that the Iranians did not like. To say the least, they have established certain parameters that they claim they're not willing to negotiate on. The Americans, on the other hand, under the Trump administration, are vigorous in their approach, saying that there's no need for Iran to enrich uranium, particularly in the aspect of its large quantities of energy that it already possesses. Much of what it is currently pursuing may lead to potential belligerence and the breakout to a nuclear weapon. Where are we heading in that course of dialogue at this point in time?
It seems as if we are heading towards the contour of a deal. And that deal, as President Trump has already indicated, could have the Iranians keep some of their fissile material, perhaps not at the 60% level of enrichment, for the purposes of quote-unquote civilian energy, not peaceful, but civilian energy. Now, President Trump is, of course, heading towards the region next week. He's going to Saudi Arabia, which has a program established by the Crown Prince, and the intention is to wean the Saudi economy of its dependence on oil. Of course, Saudi Arabia, much like Iran, has an abundance of oil. But the new and innovative Saudi leadership wants to go on to nuclear power too and develop the economy, high-tech, tourism, other purposes. This could be the model for Iran too. When President Trump signs whatever agreement he has with either King Salman or the heir apparent MBS, he could also propose a similar agreement to Iran. He's always emphasizing, President Trump, that once Iran aborts its nuclear weapon project, which the Iranians deny anyway, they could have a lot of deals, their economy will prosper. And by the way, the very fact that the Supreme Leader has authorized these talks already boosted the failing Iranian rial by 15% or so.
Yeah, but it fluctuates naturally, and we're seeing that every statement coming right now out of the White House, Pentagon, or elsewhere immediately causes the rial to plummet again by double figures at times. So that indicates to what degree it actually is stable in the Iranian economy. But General Sofrin, when we're talking about the Iranian file, this portfolio has been a heartache for many Western nations, not only the United States and Israel, but also European actors who are looking very closely at whether or not such a diplomatic solution is viable. From what I hear, it's not a done deal. It is far from it. There are wide-ranging gaps, and plans are continuing to progress into potentially utilizing strong power to confront this threat.
I agree with what you say, Jonathan. First of all, the first priority of the Trump administration is to try to get to some agreement that will enable the Iranians to keep some capability for what we call civilian use, as every country that is signed on the NPT, non-proliferation treaty, is entitled to do. And the Iranians claim all the time that this is only for civilian use, for energy. as a substitute to oil and other petrochemical materials. And nevertheless, it is, of course, if they keep all the facilities without being sealed or without being demolished, that means that under this cover they can go on and develop their what we call concealed military device, as synonym for what we call atomic bomb. On the other hand, the European countries have what we call economical interests in Iran. For many years, speaking about mainly on the UK, Germany, and France, each one of them has financial interest in Iran, and they kept on they stuck to the what we call JCPOA without any break, and they assisted Iran when the US left this treaty on 2018, and they were what we call the lifesaver rope that assisted Iran in this economy situation, and they want to go on and support Iran and to gain profit from the Iranian economy as well. And therefore, they won't cooperate very well with the Americans, and they still keep on supporting Iran and supporting the treaty that was signed in 2015. And the fact is that the Americans are giving the priority, but nevertheless, if something will come to a dead end and they will understand that there's no hope to go on, there's always the option of using military power. But this is the last priority and not the first one.
Absolutely. With that being said, the Americans have also now insisted that the ballistic missile program is part of or part and parcel of any type of deal to be reached between America and the Iranians, something the Iranians have never agreed to. So we'll have to wait and see whether or not this is going to evolve into something substantive, or this is indeed something that the Iranians are just trying to buy additional time, dragging their feet for the purpose of breakout. But General Gavish, Iranian defense minister, came out and stated that in the event that Iran's nuclear infrastructure is targeted alongside other strategic installations, Iran would launch a robust ballistic missile campaign, and of course they have a large arsenal, but nonetheless have since the 26th of October earlier this year or last year been struck quite hard on a certain development components that are required in order to develop those ballistic capabilities. Nonetheless, they are very deliberate in their intentions to target every American base in the region, including the state of Israel. From their perspective, Israel is one big American base. What is being done in order to prepare to confront such a threat?
Well, indeed, Jonathan, you are right. And we have to remember that, unfortunately, we are quite experienced, both the US forces and the Israeli forces for the last 1.5 years. But everyone is also looking towards the threat in the future. What could be the relevant development? How could we continuously enhance our defenses, the doctrine ones, the systems themselves, the robustness of them. So everything is being done in order to prepare ourselves to such a threat. This is what is expected, I think, from the defense, and this is exactly what is being done.
Let me ask General Gavish a question, which many people are curious to know. A couple of days ago, both the American system and the Israeli one failed to intercept the Houthi missile for whatever reason, which is now, of course, being looked at. Is it possible for the American missile to hit the Israeli missile and vice versa when both of them are being launched at the same target? Or are they being launched separately, separate times, separate altitudes?
No, there is not really such a case that the systems are hitting each other. Everything is fully coordinated. Everything is what they see, we see, and what we see, they see. So basically, this is a theoretical statement, I would say. There is nothing into it. You always check yourself to make sure that you don't shoot what you don't need to shoot. It is sometimes more challenging with air-breathing targets than between or among the missiles themselves. So, but this is part of the doctrine. This is something that is being looked at. Just to would refer to what you've mentioned about the debriefing of the miss 2 days ago. We know exactly what happened. We know that it was a technical issue in one part of the missiles without getting into the target. And the good news is that once you know what is the problem, you know also how to fix it. So in this, I would say in this relevant situation, it was a technical issue.
Absolutely. Well, Mr. Owen, in one sentence, we are still in the pre-stages of an attack or an intensifying attack in Gaza. Very briefly.
Seems to be on hold until President Trump visits the area, clears the air, and then we will see whether we have to go into Gaza in force or whether there is any sort of deal regarding the hostage release.
Indeed. Well, time will tell on that, and we will discuss more on this also in tomorrow's update. But I'd like to immediately thank General Sofrin, General Gavish, and Mr. Owen for all of your insights. I'd like to thank all of you at home as well. Until our next edition from here in Jerusalem. Shalom.
My name is Doron Gavish, and my background, 30 years of serving in the Israeli Air Force. My last job, I was the commander of the Israeli Air and Missile Defense during the introduction of the Iron Dome to the defense of Israel. All of this allows me really to be part of the team here in TV7. It is super important to have such a platform. We talk about the global situation, we talk about Israel and those different angles which are relevant to the discussion.
For more of TV7 Israel's productions and editorials, we invite you to visit our website at www.tv7israelnews.com.